Testing, testing, testing. Okay, it's picking me up. I think it's picking me up. Good. Okay, hello. Welcome to my live stream. I've started a new topic, and that topic is going to be Donald Trump. Just want to talk about, people's perceptions, people's understanding of him, what they think is going on, how he does things, what it is that stands out to you with respect to things that he does do, and so forth. My mic is in place. Okay. Before we actually start, I certainly would like to make the initial request that you join my channel if you see things that you like and you'd like to keep in track and on place with what I'm doing. I'd certainly like if you would join my channel. Also, I'm attempting to get my YouTube channel activated on YouTube, and that requires watch time also. So if you can watch my videos and, get my watch time up, that would be great too, and that would be fantastic. Excuse me, fantastic if you can get that done. Okay, so I'm doing a live stream, and I'm hoping to potentially maybe get people to join my live stream and such. And I'm just going to see here because I'm actually using OBS to do my interaction and see if it's actually activating. So, hi everyone. Okay, that's going on, so I can see things on the OBS. Okay, just want to make sure I'm centered and have everything organized in a way that's at least effective. So I'm just actually going to start a conversation. It's going to be a self-directed conversation, as I'm not actually got anybody who's joined my live stream yet. Hoping people will join. I did invite people from Discord to see if potentially they would like to talk about Donald Trump, and hopefully, one or two maybe join and I can get a conversation started. Until that point, I'm just going to go through points that I actually want to go over, things that stand out to me as question points, things that I think that are important to talk about, and did a quick search here on Google. Getting information about Donald Trump, and we'll go through that. So we'll just read the introduction statement here from the AI generation output. It says, Donald Trump has made thousands of false or misleading claims on a wide range of topics and faced numerous accusations and legal challenges throughout his career and presidency. Fact-checking organizations have extensively documented these statements. To me, that's actually a big thing, and the whole thing with respect to politicians in general is, can you believe what they say? And a lot of times, people probably would sit there and say, it's a question mark of listening to a politician and believing what they say, and I'm talking in the context of Donald Trump in his activity as president of the United States, which makes him a politician. So I'm actually referring to things in somewhat that light, but even though we can talk about maybe other things in his past that he's gone over also that were questionable about honesty in that light. So we're just going to go over the factual information, or let's say the information provided by the Google search operation about things that have come up. So let's just start that. Okay, 2020 election fraud. Trump repeatedly and falsely claimed that the 2020 election was rigged and stolen and that he actually won. There is no evidence of widespread fraud that could have changed the outcome of the election, which he lost to Joe Biden. And I see a lot of people, especially a lot of the late night people talk about it, and people in general on YouTube, they talk about it a lot. About he seems to have a problem accepting that he did not win that particular election. And I question the actual point of why would he not accept that. I actually find that very difficult. I say find it difficult in general, but I think in the aspect of as I get through here and I make more comments about it, I think I'm going to give a presentation of actually why I think maybe he doesn't accept it. But the general statement of why would you not accept something that you were competed in and you did not win. I'd like to hear from everybody. I'd really like to hear from people who are proponents of Donald Trump and also believe that he did lose this election. Because I could say, this can go both ways. It's to say, I lost this election and it's unfair. What about, Kamala Harris? Talk about the current election. Can she say the same thing? And why is it if Trump says it, it's okay, and if somebody else says it, why is it not okay? To me, those are the questions I ask, is why can somebody be right and somebody can be wrong? I'd like to hear the explanation of that. Economy and inflation. He has claimed that grocery prices and overall inflation were declining when in fact they were continuing to increase. He also falsely stated that there was no inflation during his first term. It was approximately 8%. And I see a lot of people on YouTube, obviously, because that's obviously where you get a lot of input nowadays, is on YouTube or on the internet in general. And I've heard people talk about the aspects that the economists, the experts who actually monitor the activity of an organization, of a government, and how it's progressing and basically what state it's in. And a lot of people are saying, and a lot of economists that I've heard talk about it, they all say, no, this is absolutely not true. Inflation is continuing. It's actually not getting any better. It's actually getting worse. But again, this is a statement that I heard him say. I've heard him say it actually almost practically every time I watch him on the internet, on YouTube specifically. I've heard him say multiple times that inflation is under control. Inflation's not moving up. Inflation's in good position. I'd heard him talk about the aspects of grocery prices have come down and come down quite a bit. A lot of people saying, they get the impression that he actually never does grocery shopping or has never done it, because they say if you actually go and actually do a foot patrol at a grocery store, you can see that actually is somewhat questionable, that claim. Immigration. Trump has repeatedly made the unsubstantiated claim that foreign countries are deliberately emptying their prisons and mental institutions to send criminals to the U.S. as migrants. He has also inflated the number of illegal border crossings under the Biden administration, using figures far higher than official government data. I've seen this come up, and I've seen him actually say, I question the numbers that have been reported, and I've also seen him indicate the numbers that he feels are correct. And it comes down to, well, are they actually correct? And I know people that I've seen on the internet, on YouTube, where they said they've heard, and some of them actually said they've done the research. And they said these claims are not true. They're false. So again, getting to the aspect of what people think about this, and again, I'd really like to hear from the proponents of Donald Trump, and I would like to know if you actually believe, I guess, this statement or this presentation of events, and if you actually have a reason for believing it. Or is it just the aspect that he said it? If he says it, it's true. I'd like to hear from the people who are proponents of Donald Trump, and if this is actually something that they believe in wholeheartedly. Border wall. Trump claimed that Mexico would pay for a border wall, which never happened. He also inflated the mileage of new wall constructed during his presidency. I've heard about this. I heard about the aspect, and I've actually seen him say the aspect is, he said Mexico is going to pay for the construction of this border wall. And I remember the president at the time from Mexico said to say, yeah, there's no way in hell we're going to pay for that. You can say it, you can say whatever you want to say, but, we're not paying for it, and I could say that this is not so much a false statement as much as it's a claim that he felt would come to fruition, which never did. So I could say that it's not so much a lie as much as he said that this was going to be something Mexico was going to do, which Mexico never did. The question mark is, why did he say that? Did he have a conversation with the Mexican president and came to an agreement where they would pay for it? And if they did, why did they revert on that? And I'd like to know, does anybody know about this more in detail? I really don't know per se. I've heard the Mexican president say he was not going to pay for it. I knew the current president said that we would never pay for it, And why was the statement made? COVID-19 pandemic. Trump often downplayed the seriousness of the virus, falsely claiming it was no more lethal than the seasonal flu and suggesting unproven treatments like injecting disinfectants. I do remember that, and I do remember him making statements like that. I do remember him saying something along the lines of, injecting bleach or something along that line. It's like something extremely dangerous. So he said, you're going to put that in your body and that's so clear. I'm thinking to myself, I don't really think he actually understands anything about viruses and the internal workings of, your body and actually how it operates. Because I was at to say, a lot of people said to say that seems to be very dangerous. It certainly was way more lethal than the seasonal flu, even though COVID-19 is apparently supposed to be somewhat of the same strain. It apparently is in the flu arena, but apparently this is a much more hazardous, kind of like the one like the Spanish flu that they had back in the 1900s. They said it's a flu, and I think it was a flu, but the whole thing is it was a really bad flu. And we said to say, yeah, COVID-19, yeah, it's a flu, but it's a really bad one. And again, can you say that it's not a bad flu, and that you could make these statements about things you can do to, save yourself? That are question marks about a person. For one thing, Donald Trump is not a medical doctor. I sure as hell would never listen to somebody who makes a statement about something that they have actually no knowledge of and no expertise of about how to handle it. Would never do it. Don't care how intelligent you may think the person is, they're not an expert in that arena, so how can they make that statement? So that's a question mark there. Now, I want to know again, did you find that these statements were valid? And, did you try any of the things that he stated about saying, this is what you can do to save yourself? And if you did it work? And if you say that I did, I would actually like to have some sort of validation from that. If you have some sort of medical reports that actually consist of shows, oh yeah, he took bleach, and apparently if you can provide that, if you said you did it, then that'd be great, because that's one thing I'm going to ask about. Policy achievements. He frequently made false or exaggerated claims about his accomplishments, such as signing the largest tax cut in history, it ranked 8th, or totally defeating the ISIS caliphate in 3 weeks. It took over 2 years, and the group continues to operate as an insurgency. Yeah. That's foreign policy kind of like stuff, and of course aspects of tax cuts, a lot of people sit there say yeah, they were the largest tax cuts, but for a targeted group. And again, the 1%, as they talk about it, is those guys, those people who are extremely rich, they're getting great tax breaks. They really are. The whole thing is, is that a false claim or just an exaggeration? Some people say that's an exaggeration. He overstepped. But again, it gets an aspect of, what's the level of honesty that you can expect from a person at this level, the President of the United States. Tariffs. Trump repeatedly claimed that China paid the tariffs he imposed, while in reality U.S. importers bore almost entire costs, which is often passed down to consumers. And again, this gets down into economics and aspects of what a tariff is. And I've heard a lot of people who are Trump advocates who were clearly unknowledgeable about what a tariff is. And again, this was the whole purpose, or the whole way that the Trump organization presented these activities as something that was going to be targeting the country that the tariffs were on. The thing is, that's not economic. That's not an economic activity. If a country is required to pay some sort of tax on stuff that they sell, that's not a tariff. A tariff is explicitly tax on products you bring into your country that you have to pay. So if you buy something from China, China ships it over to you, the American government has a tariff on it, they sit there and say, okay, yeah, you brought this in, this product is deemed as a tariffed product, and you will be tariffed, for lack of a better way of saying that, for the basically the purchase of that product. And again, why do they say the end result is that consumers will pay for this? Because companies, anybody who's run a company, anybody knows anything about a company, how it runs, they just don't take, blindly additional cost. They find any way to reduce the actual cost to production, and if it comes down to it, they move that cost on to the consumer. It could cost us this amount of money, which means the impact on the sale of this product to our local clients is going to be like this. And so that's what happens. So yeah, that's a complete 100% lie for sure. And again, do you think this is true? Do you think that, the countries that have been tariffed are paying for these tariffs? And if you think that, again, just like I stated before, since you've made that claim, I'm going to ask for clarification and validation of that claim, because it's not the way things actually work. Accusations and legal actions. Trump has faced numerous accusations and legal challenges, both civil and criminal, and this is somewhat getting out of the context of the presidency, but again, it gets in the aspects of more of his character, which to me, I'll be honest with you, I find his character very bothersome. I think I would be very uncomfortable being around this person. And a lot of it's got to do with these types of things. Sexual misconduct allegations. At least 18 women have publicly accused Trump of sexual harassment or assault over several decades. In a civil case, he was found liable for the sexual abuse of Jean Carroll in the 1990s. I've heard about that, yeah. So it seems like these are not just allegations, that these are actually trial cases that occurred that indicated the fact that, he did seem to do something wrong, and that type of stuff. And again, it comes down to aspects of saying, how do you treat women? And, I get the impression from the way he just talks about women, he's a misogynist, and he really doesn't have high regards towards the female population. Falsifying business records, hush money trial. In May 2024, this is actually current, so you can say that, May 2024, so I'm thinking, no, this is when he was president. No, this was actually last year. A New York jury found Trump guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records to conceal a hush money payment made to an adult film actress, Stormy Daniels, during his 2016 campaign. I did hear about that, and the whole thing is, I actually don't care. I don't care that he paid a adult film actress, we'll use the terminology they used here. From what I understand, she was actually more than a film actress. He was involved much more heavily in his interacting with him than that. But again, it comes down to the aspect of, did he do something like this? I could say, well, it doesn't show maybe he has high esteem or whatever way you want to represent that about how he interacts with women. But also, I actually don't care. Yeah, okay, he did stuff with a woman, some people may not like, some people may say it's okay. And I say, I don't care. I don't care what somebody does, let's say in the privacy of their own home, if you want to give that kind of explanation or presentation of it, and let it go that way. If that happens, that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. Now, again, him saying that did not happen, and they indicate the fact that they feel that it did happen, well, that gets in the aspects of it. It appears to be something he falsely claimed. Classified documents case. Trump was indicted. When you read it, it doesn't look like that's the way you pronounce it now, does it? Indicted in a federal case in Florida on 40 felony charges related to his retention of classified documents after leaving office and his alleged efforts to obstruct the government's attempt to retrieve them. It's really not somewhat, it's not to do with false accusations per se as much as him not returning documentation that at the time of his leaving the presidency, he had no official rights to actually have those documents. He didn't. And apparently that's a very well understood, legal aspect of the American government. But, I heard about this, I heard about a lot, and apparently he did do, he's accused that he did do these things, and they said that it was found that he was keeping this information. Again, these are things I want to hear from everybody per se about, do you feel that, hey, yeah, he was completely, obstructing things, doing things wrong, or do you feel to say, no, he didn't do anything wrong. Everything he did was within the context of him being allowed to do whatever he does. But again, like I said, if I do get these aspects of people who are trying to validate, I will indicate that if you do comment, I'm going to actually ask questions. 2020 election interference cases. Federal case, Washington, D.C. A federal grand jury indicted Trump on charges of conspiring to defraud the U.S. and obstruct an official proceeding in efforts to overturn the 2020 election results and prevent the peaceful transfer of power. I know the one big thing is I think it was in Georgia where he actually asked, I believe, the governor in Georgia to look for a certain amount of votes for him. Now, what he may have meant from that, I'm not really sure per se, but people got the impression he was looking for people to sit there and say, go in and change things so that way I can, win the case itself. And I did hear him talk about this type of stuff. I did hear him say, he said he did nothing wrong, but again, that's the whole thing. Again, actually, the part right after is talking about the Georgia case. A grand jury in Georgia indicted Trump and several allies on charges related to an alleged criminal enterprise to overturn the state's 2020 election case. Again, that's the same thing. Business fraud. The New York Attorney General launched a civil investigation into the Trump Organization for potentially misrepresenting property values to secure loans and gain tax benefits. The Trump Organization and its former CFO were found guilty of tax fraud in a separate criminal case. And again, that's the aspect of how he runs his business. And again, I've heard a lot of stuff about his business, the way he runs it. The one big thing that really bothered me was I heard specifically in the construction arena, like the big thing he talks about the aspects, he goes, he builds buildings, he makes, he makes things. He talked about that a lot, specifically in New York, as that's where he did a lot of his construction activity. I do remember there was a lot of people who he hired who they indicated that they were not paid. Now, they could be lying, because I don't know if any of this went to court. It wasn't listed here, so I don't know if it was something that actually went to court and he was found liable of not paying for services that he purchased. But again, I've heard a lot of people talk about it. And again, to be honest with you, I do feel that he would do something like that. Again, I find that he's a very overbearing mentality, that I get the feeling that he feels that he could do whatever he wants and basically get away with it. Charitable misuse. An inquiry into the Donald J. Trump Foundation found it engaged in self-dealing practices to benefit Trump and his businesses, leading to its closure and an admission of self-dealing. I did hear about this type of stuff. I'm thinking to myself, you start off a non-profit organization and then you use it to put money in your pocket. Again, that tells you something here that, what is this person, like, how does he handle things? What does he think of when he's doing these things? Why does he think he can get away with these things? That's surprising to me. I understand the fact that, and it probably has got to do with probably a lot of people who are up at that level of acquired capital, for lack of a better way of saying that. Basically, the money that he has and what he's been able to do with it. And again, because you got the money, you got the power, and that's unfortunate in our society. The fact is, when you got money, you got power behind it. You really do. And I think he probably understood that early on, that he can get things done because he's got money to push it through. Again, if you don't believe that, if you believe that he's a very honest person, that he's done everything, correctly, and there's nothing that's been proven, I'd like to hear that, because again, we just went through a bunch of stuff, and a lot of it had to do with the aspects of there was legal activity that would happen, and there was consequences to Donald Trump because of it. I'd like to know, if you don't believe that, why you don't believe that, if you can provide, validation of why you feel that he was potentially maybe misaccused or mistried or whatever it is, because I would like to hear that, and I'd like to ask questions because of it. I'm not here to specifically, claim about something wrong and right type of thing, as much as I'm asking questions so that way I can get a response that I can actually respond to. That's what my channel is really all about. My channel is really about asking questions. Now, again, all the stuff I just went over is aspects of asking questions about why this person did what he did, and why do some people feel that what he did was okay. Because to be honest with you, a lot of stuff that he has done, I don't feel it was okay at all. So I want to hear from people why they feel it's okay. I'm going to leave it there. Nobody joined my my live chat channel. Maybe next time I did this somewhat almost out of the blue type of thing, so it could be maybe that's why I didn't get anybody to join, but at least I have this out there for people to view, people to see, and to see the fact that I'm asking questions of people to actually respond to those questions. That's what I like. And I'm going to leave it there. Again, if you like what you see, I would really appreciate if you join my channel. And again, I'm trying to get my channel up and running. So if you can watch as much as you can watch of the videos I put out, that would be great too, because that's actually another requirement from YouTube. So